So I think it was yesterday, my partner and I, Joanne, were looking through pictures of us, and we realized that in every picture, I am clinging onto him like a limpet. My arms are wrapped around him. I'm squeezing him so tight, so happy. And I said to him, yeah, I guess I'm kind of clingy. And he said to me, I love that about you. Now, this is just a funny little story, but it got me thinking about clinginess. And it made me realize that we need to have this discussion, because I know that there are so many people in our community, and maybe you're one of them, who identifies themselves as being too clingy and doesn't know what to do with the behaviors that come with that. So I want to start with the very problematic task of defining what exactly clinginess is, because I did my research for this video, and I have to say that I'm really struggling to make peace with the definition. An excessive need for attention, reassurance, and closeness. Now, you can maybe guess why this is a challenge for me, because who the heck defines what excessive is? So I think this is where we start to get into almost immediately the challenging nature of discussing clinginess, because there's a temptation for us to pathologize something that is really difficult actually to define and to parse out from very normal, very healthy behavior, because it's healthy to want reassurance and closeness and attention in your relationship. So who defines at what point that becomes excessive? We're going to dive into that today. But I want to talk a little bit about the roots of this behavior. So if you're someone who feels like, yes, this is me, I have needed constant reassurance from my partners, or when I'm dating, that they like me, that they're interested in me, or even if I've been married for 20 years, I still need my partner to remind me that they love me, they want me, they care. I crave more closeness, and I get nervous when I don't have it. If this is you, it might be that you have some experience way back in childhood which really formed some of your behaviors now. For most of us, we were brought up by parents who were not perfect, and sometimes that means that our emotional needs were not always met by our parents or our caregivers. And when those needs are not consistently met, but they're sometimes met, that can create a sense of anxiety. Like, okay, so what do I need to do in order to get the connection? Because sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. So what do I need to be? What do I need to do in order to make sure I have that connection? This is where many of those clingy behaviors are born, because we're essentially saying, hey, I know sometimes, mom and dad, that you're here for me, but sometimes you're not. And that hurts me, and that makes me scared, and that makes me anxious. So can you please reassure me that you're going to be here tomorrow? We can start to see how these early experiences really shape the way that we experience love now. So even if we're with someone who does care about us and is present for us, we still experience that fearfulness about what could happen tomorrow. And of course, sometimes we're attracted to partners who are unpredictable and don't always meet our needs. And so that reinforces that early childhood experience. So for many of us, when we've had that experience, we end up developing an anxious attachment style or an anxious leaning attachment style. I always say these things are like a spectrum. We don't need to pathologize ourselves and put ourselves into categories, but it's anxious leaning. It means that we tend to feel more scared by our partner pulling away from us. We tend to cling, move closer towards them, and we want that closeness in the relationship. So what are some of the behaviors and how this can show up? Okay, this is where I come to the second challenge, but let's just go for it. So one of the signs is frequently asking for reassurance. The challenge here is that asking for reassurance can be a very healthy thing. And again, who defines how frequent is too frequent? But feeling a fear of abandonment, okay, like my partner or this person that I'm dating, they might just leave. And I'm scared of that. I feel that fear in my body, even when things are going well. You might experience jealousy and possessiveness. Now, jealousy is the feeling, possessiveness is a behavior, which helps you manage that feeling of jealousy. And you might also experience being overly dependent on your partner for emotional support. So again, it's so healthy to depend on your partner for emotional support. That's a great thing. When I say over-dependent, what I mean is that, sorry, you might hear my dog in the background here. What I mean is that you depend on your partner to do the things that you're not willing to do for yourself. Okay. So that can look like asking them for reassurance, but not reassuring yourself. Okay. That's when we start to get into the, sorry, my dog. That's when we start to get into a parental role. Okay, because we rely on our partner as our parent instead of having them as a partner. So again, these behaviors, these signs that you're clingy are things that I have a problem with, because we all experience a need for reassurance, a fear of abandonment sometimes. These things are part of being a mammal with a mammalian nervous system. But the question is, are you experiencing them to the degree that is really creating chronic anxiety, low-level chronic anxiety in your body? So how does this impact your relationships? How does this clinginess impact your dating or your marriage? It can bring a lot of tension and pressure, like a pressure cooker, into the situation, because you have a need and a sensitivity that is right on the surface, that is something that could easily bubble over into something that feels quite overwhelming for the couple to deal with. But of course, your clinginess doesn't need to be a death sentence. You can have the relationship of your dreams even whilst feeling this way, having these wounds and having some of these behaviors. But the question is, how do you handle the feeling of clinginess within yourself? Do you have the tools to ask for reassurance when you need it, to share your feelings in a vulnerable, non-blaming way, to look after yourself as well as asking for the reassurance? That's very important. Do you have those tools? Because if you do, then the clinginess doesn't need to impact your relationship in a negative way at all. In fact, it can bring more intimacy and connection as you start to share more about your journey, as you start to share more about your history, and you start to become partners and teammates on this thing. If you are resonating with this, if you are feeling like, yes, this is me, I struggle in this area, I consider myself to be clingy, and I think it's impacting my relationship, I think it's impacting my dating life, or it's stopping me from dating, because I don't have the tools. I've got something very, very juicy cooking for you. I am going to be releasing a completely free webinar called From Clingy to Connected, How to Build the Connected Relationship of Your Dreams. And this is a live event. We will have a replay, but it's only going to be available for a few days. So you really want to be catching it live if possible. Emoji below a little love heart if you want to be kept in the loop about this thing. And it's going to be coming out soon in the next few weeks. And I'm super excited about it. And just remember that this label of clingy is not a pathology. It's not a distinct category. It's a spectrum, and it is something that you can handle, that you can manage, and that can actually, if you have the right tools, this is the basis of bringing more intimacy into your relationship, because it's a sign, your clinginess is a sign, an indicator of something deep within you, a need, a feeling, a history, a sensitivity. And all of this is fuel for a really amazing connection that you can have. So let me know what your biggest takeaway is in the comments below. And I hope you're having the most amazing day or the best day available to you. And I will see you again back in the community really, really soon.